It's the only way to overcome our aparads and prevent future aparads. And it's the only way to call out the Lord's name in a way that He takes us serious. Krishna takes us... Krishna will connect us with Himself in any way we chant the name. But He'll take us serious to reveal Himself and really help us when we chant with great seriousness. And seriousness means humility, with a desire to serve. This is what Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu personally demonstrated, and this is what each and every one of his devotees personally demonstrated. The Lord is like a river, and the flow of that nectaring river of His mercy flows to those who feel themselves very humble and fallen. If you think you're very high, rivers don't flow upstream. Sometimes they do, but it's very rare. Rivers flow down. Have you ever seen a river flowing up a mountain? Naturally, sometimes, we have pumps with fountains and stuff like that. But a river, a big river, they flow down. So the nectarine mercy of the Lord goes to the low, goes to those who feel themselves lowly. They don't go up to those who feel themselves great. And that is the principle of Queen Kunti's prayer, Janmaishyaga. She says that those who are proud of high birth, high education, high wealth, and high beauty, they cannot call your name with feeling. Akinchana gocharam. You are the property of the impoverished. And what does that impoverished mean? It doesn't mean you necessarily have to be physically in poverty, but it means you feel that nothing is mine. Akinchana gocharam. Because after all, the gopis were supremely beautiful. That wasn't a disqualification for them. But they weren't proud of their beauty. Their beauty was just for Krishna's pleasure. It wasn't for their own arrogant enjoyment. And we read about great kings like Yudhisthira Maharaj. After he was coronated by Krishna, he was the wealthiest man in all the world. But that was not a disqualification, because he understood all my wealth belongs to Krishna, and I'll use it to serve. He was in the most humble state. And we read about scholars, Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Gosvami, Jiva Goswami. They were the greatest scholars in the creation. They had such learning, but yet they were so absolutely humble. We read about Sanatana Goswami. When Lord Chaitanya called him for lunch near the Tota Gopinath temple, the Yamala Gardens, Sanatana Goswami was called. It was summertime, and it was at noon. The sun was blazing, and the sand was so hot, it was scorching. It was impossible to walk on the sand. And Sanatana Goswami, being a Goswami, he didn't have shoes or chapels. Not even the wooden ones that Govinda Prabhu wears. He was barefoot. And yet he walked on the sand. And his whole feet was getting blistered. And when he got there, Lord Chaitanya had already eaten prasad and was resting. And the servant, Govinda, gave Sanatan some prasad. And then Lord Chaitanya, he met Sanatana Gosvami. He said, "How did you come?" He said, "I came by the beach." Lord Chaitanya said, the sand and the beach is like blazing fire. Your feet must be in terrible pain. Why didn't you come by the road near the Jagannath temple? Sanatana Goswami didn't say anything. But you see, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami is constantly reminding us of this principle of humility as the culture of a Vaishnava, non-envious and humble. So he's telling us what is in the mind of Sanatana Goswami. He knows because he's there. That Sanatana Goswami was thinking that I'm so fallen and I'm so sinful that if I go by the main road, then I have to go by Jagannath's temple. And the pujaris, the priests who serve Lord Jagannath, are always coming in and out of the temple. And if there's crowds, and if one of them were to touch me and then go in and serve the deity, then it would be such an offense to the deity that they touched me and then they touched the Lord or make an offering to the Lord. So I cannot commit such an offense or implicate anybody else in such an offense, so I can't go that way. How many of us are so refined and so subtle in our humility? Gopal Bhatta Goswami and Sanatana Goswami, they gave us the Hari Bhakti Vilas, yes? Which is describing so many technical principles of etiquette and rules and regulations for deity worship. But really the purpose of these things is just to refine our consciousness, to be so sensitive to what's pleasing to the Lord. Not to be callous, not to be negligent, not to be whimsical. These qualities are a great disturbance to bhakti. But to really be here now at this moment, thinking in terms, even on a very subtle level, what will please the Lord, to be immersed in that consciousness. That's what archana or deity worship is meant to make us do. The Lord is before us, and all the little mudras and all the little purifications and achmans and everything and all the little offerings we make is to tune us in to being so very, very sensitive at every moment, our every movement, to do it in a way that's pleasing to Krishna. Ragava Pandita. Lord Chaitanya was praising Ragava Pandita in Panihati because he always wanted to bring the best of the best of the best of everything he possibly could for his deity of Madan Gopal. And one time he had all these coconuts growing in his house, but there was a better kind of coconut that grew some distance away. And he had to go all the way to this place to get a more tasty coconut. He got some, and he clipped them, and what he would do, he was bring them into the deities, and he would give the whole coconut open, and the deities would drink it. And then he'd take it off the altar, and he'd scoop out the malai and offer that, and the deity would eat it. Very technical deity worship. And one time the pujari, as he was bringing the coconuts and the offering, he happened to touch with his finger above the door And then he touched the coconut, and Ragava Pandita saw that and took the coconut and threw it over the wall. It cannot be offered to the deity. These are priceless coconuts that he went a long way to get. Why? Because he was thinking that, people walk with their feet on the floor, and if a breeze comes, it may take some of the dust that's on the floor and bring it up to the top there. And he touched the top, and then he touched the coconut. Therefore, the coconut can't be offered. Now, for most of us, we wouldn't think of that. And even if we did, we'd say, this is a valuable coconut. I went so many kilometers walking to get. I'll wash it in case any dust happens. But for Ragava Pandita, it's too late. Washing won't do. Discard it, throw it. Let somebody else eat it, not Krishna. And Prabhupada says that, you may think this person had some cleansophobia or something. There are people who have this kind of phobia. It's like a mental disease where they're always worried about germs. Yes? But it wasn't like that. He was just so deeply thinking, so tuned in to making things perfect for Krishna. So this was Sanatana Goswami's feeling, that a pujari of Jagannath may touch me and then touch Jagannath. So rather than take that very, very extended, remote chance, he walked a long distance of several kilometers with bare feet in the blazing sand, and his feet were terribly blistered. But he wouldn't tell Lord Chaitanya his reasoning. But Lord Chaitanya understood his heart. And he is a symbol of humility. You see, if people just do these things, it wasn't that he's an extremist. It's a matter of the heart. It wasn't that Lord Chaitanya was so much impressed by his blistered feet. It was his heart. Other people may perform severe tapasya with ego. And the Lord does not accept that. He's not pleased with that. But the Lord showered his infinite mercy on Sanatana Goswami, because Sanatana Goswami, although the most learned scholar in the world, he and Rupa and Jiva, they felt themselves fallen and humble. When Sanatana Goswami was telling Lord Chaitanya that I don't know who I am, I don't know why I'm suffering, I don't know who is God, I don't know where I'm going, I don't know why material existence is the way it is, but still people call me a pundit, a learned scholar, and I am so shameless I believe them. Please tell me, who am I? What is the purpose of life? And Lord Chaitanya, when he was hearing Sanatana Goswami speak, he was crying. He said, "Stop speaking like this. Your humility is breaking my heart." And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said to Sanatana Goswami, actually, your qualities, your character, and your knowledge is so exalted that you are fit to be my guru. You are my guru. But for the sake of strictness, you are speaking like this. What does that mean, for the sake of strictness? It is his natural quality. He has all good character, but he's thinking himself the most fallen. Therefore, the nectarine river of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mercy is flowing unrestrictedly, profoundly, inundating his heart. because he's feeling himself low. The river flows to the heart that feels itself low, and the river will not reach the heart that feels itself high. This is spiritual geology. Narottam Das Thakur, Srila Prabhupada is quoting, Patita pavana hetu tava avatara mosamo patita prabhu na paiveyara. When we listen to this verse by Thakur Narottam, how it should strike our heart. He's praying to Sri Chaitanya. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Daya Koro More Thoma Vina Ke Dayalu Jagata Samsare. My dear Lord, you are most merciful, and you are Patita Pavana. You are especially inclined to those who are the most fallen. And because you have descended to deliver the most fallen people, you can, Prabhupada says it in this way, quoting Narottam Das Thakur, you can examine the entire creation and you will not find anyone more fallen than me. Therefore, my claim is first. If you have come to deliver the most fallen, here I am. This was the same spirit as Rupa and Sanatana Gosvami when they met the Lord at Ramakeli. They were presenting themselves as the most fallen, the most degraded, lower than Jagai and Madhai, who were born of Brahmin families who may have done some sinful deeds, but they didn't serve sinful people like we do. You have come as to deliver the most fallen, and the purpose of your avatar will be fulfilled if you can deliver us. This is the way Rupa and Sanatana are thinking. This is the spirit of Narottam Das Thakur. This is what is being revealed through the heart of Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. And Srila Prabhupada explains they are not just speaking these words as flowery poetry. They feel it in the core of their heart and they mean it. And it's not that they're depressed because they mean it. Somebody in this world, if they say, I am the most fallen, I am the most sinful, I am lower than a worm and stool, I'm suffering due to boils of envy. If it was on a material platform that people are thinking like that, they'd have to be in a mental hospital. Yes? You go to a psychologist and tell them, I'll quote these verses. Psychiatrists, and they'll start injecting you with antidepressants. And they'll start, giving you counseling to make you feel good. Actually, you're a good person. And you're this is humility of a spiritual nature. This humility doesn't make you depressed. This humility makes you completely empowered because it accesses the inundation of the river of the Lord's mercy. You see, material inferiority complex is when you have a big ego and it's not being fulfilled. Then you become depressed and you feel inferior. But humility is to be without ego, false ego. Total difference. Vaishnava humility doesn't mean to be depressed because our ego's smashed. It means to be elated because our ego is being liberated. The real ego is emerging over the false ego. That is humility. Where we're connecting with the infinite grace of God to empower us. But that infinite grace, as is described here, it flows downstream. It flows to the lowest place, the sea. The sea level is the lowest place on earth, is it not? Or maybe not the lowest, but it's a low place on earth. Like Death Valley is the lowest place because it's, what is its relation to sea level? But it's all calculated according to sea level. The river goes to the lowest place. That's where the river finds its destination, in the sea. And similarly, the Lord's mercy will find its destination when our heart is in that humble state. And this is Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. It's all about this. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya thought he was a great scholar, which he was. But Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu very, very expertly humbled him to realize that he knew nothing. And then the river of that mercy completely inundated his life, and he filled with pure devotional service. Devananda Pandit thought he was a great scholar of the Bhagavatam. But by associating with Bakreshwar Pandit, he realized he knew nothing, he had nothing. And then he took shelter of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and he was given the highest treasure of love of God. King Prataparudra was the king of Orissa. But his armies didn't impress the Lord. His palaces did not impress the Lord. His offerings of massive donations did not impress the Lord. What impressed the Lord? When he took the simple role of a street sweeper from his heart. That was the beginning. And then when he wanted to come into the Lord, he dressed himself as a common mendicant. He didn't come in as a king. He was a king. But before God, he came as a common beggar, mendicant, devotee. And what role did he take? He didn't take the role of, my Lord, put my name in gold plaque above, my donation. He came to massage the Lord's feet. And he had already massaged the feet of the devotees. Kashi Mishra, King Prataparudra, would massage his feet. And the Lord knew that. Because he humbled himself before the devotees, because he took the position of a street sweeper, now he was allowed to massage the Lord's feet. And he was reciting on Ramananda Rai's advice and Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, the Gopi Gita. And as he was reciting, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, go on reciting, go on reciting. Oh, he was so happy. He was just massaging. And then he, Tavakatamritam tapta jivanam. This beautiful verse about how the Lord's glories are like a river of nectar that is flowing from the mouths of the devotees. And anyone who chants these glories, they are Burida Jana. They are the best welfare workers in all of humanity. And when he heard this, the Lord Chaitanya got up and embraced him and soaked him with tears and says, you are the most munificent. You are the most munificent. And the Lord ultimately he asked, you have come to bring me so much nectar. Who are you? Hare Krishna. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would not meet the king Just a few hours before in Rath Yatra, Lord Chaitanya fell down in ecstasy into the arms of King Prataparudra, and then he looked up and saw the king and said, "Abominable! I have been touched by a materialistic person," and jumped away. And King Prataparudra was mortified. And Srivas Thakur or somebody told him, "Actually, he's very pleased with you." But Swami's, he's a sannyasi, so, he has to do these things. So now King is being asked by Sri Chaitanya, "Who are you?" You can't tell a lie to the absolute truth and get away with it. If he said, "I am King Prataparudra," oh God. He was in a disguise. And he couldn't lie and say, I'm somebody else. He had to tell the truth. But the king, from his heart of heart, he told the truth. Because he wasn't thinking, "I am King Prataparudra." He said, "I am simply the servant of your servants, and the only aspiration I ever have in my life is to be the servant of the servant of the servant of your servants." That was actually what his heart was. And that's why the river of the Lord's nectarine mercy inundated the king, and he gave him such mercy because he was feeling that way. Lowest position. He was in the highest position, but he was feeling himself low. When Srila Prabhupada was on Jaladuta, he was the highest Paramhamsa in the world. But he's saying, "You have given me the name Bhakti Vedanta, but I have no bhakti and I have no Vedanta, no knowledge. It is only by your mercy that you can fulfill the true meaning of my name. I have no qualification." He's saying he has no devotion and he has no knowledge, and he's feeling it. He wasn't writing that on some website or something. It was just between him and Krishna. I worship Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, whose nectarine mercy flows like a great river, inundating the entire universe. Just as a river flows downstream, Lord Chaitanya especially extends himself to the fallen.